another episode of Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dana Johnson, and joining me today for our Southwest edition is my dear college alumna, Nicole Phillips.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for having me. Sorry, I have my heart.
Candy McDowell.
Hello.
And Vicki Williams.
Hi, nice to talk to you.
Thank you, ladies, for joining me today.
Absolutely. Welcome. Glad to be here.
So just to give a little bit of backstory of how we got to this point in just our girls' friendship and how I invited them to the seat at the table is that Nicole and I go back to like yesterday. We are college alumna sisters from Alverno College in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yes. And every opportunity.
Dorms in 1991.
There you go.
Okay, just put it on the page.
Because I just said yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So every opportunity that I have when I come to Arizona, I make a point to visit with Nicole. And through Nicole, I had an opportunity to meet Vicki, and now we're all like fast buddies. And through Vicki, I got an opportunity to meet her sister Candy. Yesterday, we had a lovely time joining together because we're here for the holidays to be able to create and decorate gingerbread houses as a tradition that most families have. And through that conversation, we talked about my podcast, and I invited them to have a seat at the table with me. And here we are.
Thank you.
So to begin with, ladies, as ladies over 40, can you please tell me from your perspective why we think that it is important for self-examinations and mammograms? And we'll start with Nicole.
Well, I think probably the biggest thing is normalizing the conversation around mammograms. I mean, we all know that it's a pain in the butt. We know that the machines are kind of prehistoric, in my opinion. We obviously, in my opinion, I feel like they were definitely constructed by men because of what they need to do in order to get the pictures that they need. So first off, talking about it from a very, very early age, telling our young daughters, because we all have daughters, except for you, but the three of us have daughters, what to expect. I mean, because it's not, there's nothing normal. There isn't anything normal about the process of getting a mammogram.
Correct.
And although we know that it's out there, we know it's going to happen, there's still such a heavy stigma around it. And it's like this big daunting moment that you've got to finally go to that appointment.
Yeah, well, for me, it's important because our mother experienced breast cancer when we were younger, and we're thankful that she's been a survivor for decades now. But I've had a mammogram that was a scare that required that I go back and do an ultrasound. And I think far too many women think it's something that only affects older women. Like, I mean, I'm over 50, and I think that probably is the majority of women. But I know young women who are in their 20s who also experience breast cancer. And it's much easier to treat if they can find it at stage 1 or stage 2. I've seen far too many women discover they have breast cancer at stage 4. And then there's not much that can be done. So if we can normalize the monthly self-exams in the shower,
Or even just a conversation around it.
conversations, and then going to have a mammogram on a yearly basis at a minimum. I think it's, if we can, like Nicole said, normalize it, it'll be something that we can make sure that we catch early.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And don't be afraid to hear the results. I think that keeps a lot of people from getting tested is the fear of what will I hear. And I think they do that too long, and then it does become a bigger issue.
Right.
And like my sister said earlier too, even just the monthly self-exam in the shower. So I mean, we all learned that, and
That was so
early. Yeah, it was so. I didn't and then also, it is also important for women who have who've had enhancements, put it that way, right?
I know what you're talking
to
about.
still get the same, y'all, it's, to still have their exams done.
Yes.
Because just, it's actually more important, I think, because it's too easy for cancer to hide around implants and behind them. And so I think it's actually even more important for women that do have enhancements to have their exams done as well and not forget to do that.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful that you shared that, because I'm sure with those of you who may be watching us from across the country, may be thinking just some of those things and some of those points that they brought up, specifically in the point that Vicki brought up for women who may think, well, once I reach the age of 40, that that's the important stage to go and have our first mammogram. But we found from time and time again, as you mentioned, that some women in their 20s are being discovered. And I found from my advocacy work at a state level and also a national level, just within reading some of the statistics and meeting with a lot of the scientists and doctors behind the scenes, there's so many things that we are unaware of that need to be brought to the forefront. And that's why I feel like it's so important for us to be having this conversation here and making certain that you, our audience, are a part of this discussion as well, and being able to ask the questions. So please make comments in the comment section as you view this, so that we can come back and answer those questions in possibly a later episode or via the comment section as well, because we want to continue to follow along with the purpose of the Pink Table Talk. And our platform is education, policy, and research. So we wholeheartedly want to make certain that we are addressing all the questions that you may have, and that we are addressing the things that the ladies here brought up this evening. So,
And also, we were discussing
yes.
males.
Yes.
Right? We can't,
Yes.
we can't leave our counterparts out.
Exactly.
They need to do the same thing, get those exams.
Yes.
I think all men need to go through that smooshie machine. I'm just saying, just my thought.
Look, the self-exam,
Just so they're
find it when it's smaller than a pea size. and
That's
you'll
your
be better
opinion.
off.
Exactly. I love it. And love your personality.
Well, y'all say.
I wish I could turn this off, but I can't.
So next, ladies, thank you for joining me for a seat at the table from Arizona. Can you share with everyone who's watching with us today why you think that it is so important for us to continue these conversations, and for the platform that has actually birthed October 15, 2020, and now here we are still in its infancy, just shy of 2 months, why you feel like it's important for me to have this platform and just to take it across the country and to continue to have these conversations. And we'll start with Candy this time.
Okay. It's really important. I think discussing it keeps it alive.
Yes.
You know, we talk about things we forget to talk about, and we talk about things when we were growing up, but now the newer generations are not hearing the same message. So I think it's really important to carry that message generation after generation, because cancer hasn't gone anywhere.
Exactly.
In fact, it's even more prevalent if you look at the numbers. The United States has one of the highest cancer rates over the world. And so I think.
Do you know what that is?
I was gonna say, it's all the
I think it's a lot of preservatives and additives. I think that might be a different discussion, I don't know, but I think a lot, being very, very open with our daughters, our nieces, our friends, and things, just being open in conversation. So it's not, there's no taboo about it.
Exactly.
With children, with the children coming up, they're not afraid to talk about it, so.
It's wonderful that you brought that up in speaking in regards to daughters. So back in Wisconsin, I coach girls on the run, and I coach 3rd through 5th grade girls. And I just found out about 5 years ago during my advocacy, and like I said, we do a lot of behind the scenes research with the Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition. And there are coalitions that are actually across the state and across the country. And in one of the evenings before going to Madison, I'm reading through the statistics, and it was talking about the fact that Wisconsin rated high within the obesity rate at this particular time. And it scared me, because it talked about the fact that young girls, if we don't get a handle on how we're eating and our nutrition, that once they get to a mature age, they could possibly be diagnosed and be at high risk. So for me, it just kind of hit different. And having this group of girls that I coach, it was important for me to have that conversation, not directly with them, but with their parents, and then also to speak about that with the legislators when I was in Madison. And as we all know, and I say this all the time, like it takes the village, but it also, we are 6 degrees in separation.
Less.
And a lot of the legislators could resonate with that, and they got it. It was like, okay, I hear what you're saying, I hear the statistics, but by saying that, it kind of hit closer to home, and it let them understand that, okay, this is something that we needed to tackle in Wisconsin, and also across the country. So as you said, in regards to like the United States, not only was it just something for me, knowing the statistics in Wisconsin, but understanding that this is something that we need to actually look at in the entire country.
Well, in Arizona, it's kind of ironic, because there's so many farms here in Arizona that raise produce and cattle, beef, and my sister can tell you, my kids used to tease me because I was all about organic, non-GMO, grass-fed, free range, that kind of thing. And now that they're all adults, because we're over 50, they advocate for the same kind of food sources.
Exactly.
You know, and they read the labels on things and the packaging, because
And it's
truly what you
wonderful.
put in your body makes a huge difference. There are so many things that are carcinogens
Mhm.
that
Well, that and the fact that what we put on our bodies, I've been a strong advocate for the last 5 years of non-aluminum deodorants.
Yes.
Rubbing aluminum into your armpits, which is right into your lymph nodes, you know, it's number one cause of cancer. Like, you don't see cancer in countries like China and Africa and Italy and France. They may not smell as pleasant as us because we're variants and right. So we may smell more pleasant, but our rates of breast cancer are going up astronomically higher than theirs because we are smushing aluminum into our armpits every day and then teaching our young daughters to do the same thing.
Right.
Because we want to smell fresh. We don't want to be, you know, listen, honey,
reapply.
reapply. Get you some baking soda deodorant and some lavender, that charcoal, whatever works. But, you know, again, if there's one message I'd like for people to hear loud and clear is that women, you know, stop using aluminum deodorants.
Don't give in to the media.
Anti-perspirants.
Wonderful. So ladies, finally, I would just like to know if you could share with our audience here today just some last minute tips for me as we go into 2021 and how I could reach other people to ask them to come and have a seat at the table with me as well. And just any thoughtful tips for me personally as a new host of a podcast.
I think you're doing a great job already. You shared with your audience how you came to know me, my sister Candy, and you've known Nicole, you know, for quite a while. But I think our networks are so important.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are on social media, but they don't use it to network with other people who have like minds or who have a platform like yours. And I can't tell you how many times it's been me just randomly making a connection with somebody and them saying, you know, oh, I like what you stand for. I like what you advocate for.
Yes.
Why don't I connect you with this person? So I think that as long as you continue to expand that widening circle of influence that you have, you're going to do well.
Well, thank you.
I like her her tip on the social media. Social media is huge these days. I mean, for everything. And like you said, we're less than 6 degrees of separation from people now at this point because of social media.
Right.
I mean, we're able to reach out to people we went to high school with
Yes.
and see their daily lives on a regular
Yes.
at this point because of social media. So it's really a very good way to push yourself out there. I mean, always be talking about it. Always.
It's important.
There's so many stories out there. I mean, I know your story, obviously, with your mom, and we have another girlfriend here in town, and I think she was 16 when her mom passed away. Her mom was diagnosed at 33. And then she got diagnosed at 32. She was 6 months younger than her mother was when she passed away with breast cancer. And granted, you know, that was 30 years ago, you know, where she's in her 50s now too. But I think that, again, normalizing the conversation, making sure that we are checking. And so if there's one thing that I can say to you that I think should go on with you with your platform is don't shut up. Keep talking about it. The message is important. You just never know what piece of the message might be resonating with someone. So you're doing a great thing. Stand on the platform and don't get off of it.
Go girl.
Love you, girl.
I
Oh, wait, we got some backside. We got girls. You know,
Thank you all again for joining me for another edition of Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dana Johnson. And again, joining me today has been Vicki, Candy, and Nicole. It's been a pleasure to bring the Pink Table Talk to you via the Southwest edition. And thank you for joining us. And we're back for part 2 of Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dana Johnson, and joining me for this edition is Candy.
Hello.
Candy rejoins us at the table to discuss other forms of cancer. So we began in the part 1 of our discussion with Nicole, Candy, and Vicki discussing breast cancer awareness, and now we'd like to talk about other forms of cancer that people have been diagnosed with. So please share your story.
Okay, thank you. When I was about 35, I was in excellent shape. I thought I had it all together. And I went and had my regular exam, women's annual exam, as we want to say, right? And I got a positive on the exam. And so the doctor said, oh, don't worry about it. Let's come back and we'll just do another one. He kind of downplayed it and, said, just come on back, we'll do another one. It happened, at my age, he said. And at 35, I was like, at my age. And so what happened is I went back and had another exam, and within days, they started sounding a little more serious. They wanted me to come back and do a biopsy first. This was on my cervix. I had gotten diagnosed with cervical cancer. So I had to go through a biopsy. And then they found that the cells were deeper into my cervix than they originally had suspected. So they did I think it's called a colonoscopy, which is a minor surgery, but I was out for a few days for that. And then they just kept moving on, taking a little bit at a time, a little bit more, a little bit. So I ended up having a few surgeries, and altogether I was probably out for a couple of months from work, and I could not work out anymore. That was a big thing for me at the time. And so it was really tough. It was tough. And hearing that you have, that they're suspecting cancer was tough. Because at the time I had 3 children and I was a single parent. So I took that really hard.
Oh, I'm sure. But look at you coming out on the other side like a champion
Yeah.
and the queen that you are.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing that side of the conversation that not many of us have that understanding. So we appreciate you bringing that platform to our table today. So can you just start from the beginning and walk us through your breast cancer diagnoses and the effects it had on you and your loved ones? You spoke about being a single mom at the time when you found out you were diagnosed and having 3 littles. So can you just kind of just tell us the effects?
Yes. I mean, most people think of the physical effects that cancer takes on the body, but there's also the emotional effects and spiritually that it takes on you, the toll that it takes on you, as well as your family members. I think when I told my family, I called my mom after I found out, and I said, hey, I've had this possible diagnosis, and here's where my life insurance policy is. And that's where my mind went to right away, because I had to start thinking, like, if I don't make this, who's going to take care of my kid?
Exactly.
And so naturally, I went to my parents and I said, if we do this, if something happens. And of course, my mom was like, oh, don't talk that way, I said, well, Mom, I think I was more level-headed at that time because I was in a business mindset at that time. I was like, I need to get this in order, or, everybody needs to know where to find this paperwork, so I was thinking more business. But as the business part left my mind over time, then the emotional set in. And I actually, it's so funny, I went to blogging about it on the internet back then. Yeah, I was actually on a dating site.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I was on a dating site, and I started using this dating platform to blog about my cancer and how I felt about it. And I would blog every day, but I realized I was reaching more people than I thought I was going to reach, and it became so overwhelming, but positive with the responses I was getting, that I was stuck to the computer. It was crazy. And so I shut down so hard. I was like, I got to stop doing this. What am I doing? And I stayed off for like 2 weeks. And when I came back, my inbox was so full of just the love and support of people I didn't even know. I've actually met lifelong friends out of that situation. I had 2 people come to my surgery that I didn't even know. They just showed up at my surgeries, and we had just talked on the internet, but physically met like right before my surgeries. So I thought that was so amazing that there's people out there that are willing to come and support you, even if they don't even know who you are, because they had gone through such a similar situations with family members. One young lady, her name is Tracy. Her mom had gone through and passed away, and so she was a good support for me as well as my own family. But then you also realize, it makes you kind of realize who's not there for you too. It's kind of sad. You see people kind of I don't know if they're just afraid to talk about it, and they just kind of disappear, and that's okay too, but you go through that.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. So this just kind of gives us a newfound perspective on the power of social media. So whether you have a Facebook account or Instagram account, or as Candy spoke about, having being able to blog about her situation, and Twitter account. Social media is here. It's giving us a voice, and it allows me to be able to have this platform and to bring it to you via my YouTube channel as well. So we just ask you to please join us for a conversation and to just continue to get the word out, and please share a comment so that we can follow back up with you with any kind of, answers to any of your questions that you may have. An additional question that I would like to ask you that I'm curious about is, can you speak on your new birthday and what remission means to you?
Oh, gosh. My new birthday, which was my surgery date, was October 23rd, many years ago. But what it means to me is it's given me a new perspective on looking at life itself. I don't take things for granted anymore. I think it's made me really look at myself, introvert, and look inside myself and decide what is important and what's really not. I think we put importance on things that really aren't sometimes.
Exactly.
And so it really made me closer with my family, my children, and really just take those relationships a little bit more important, I think. And not that I didn't before,
Right.
But it just makes you look at things differently. I mean, you smell the roses when that happens,
For sure.
And then each year that goes by, I've got friends who've gone through cancer and survived as well. I think it's a great way of saying, hey, I made it another year, And I do take my exams more seriously.
Yes.
Because of it. I've done all my breast exams, my cervical, even though I don't have a cervix, I still do those exams. I still have ovaries, and I do my colonoscopies because my birth mom passed away from colon cancer. So knowing that cancer runs in the family is important too, to make sure you have those exams.
Wonderful. And it is important that we share these stories with all of you. And I appreciate the fact that you came back to the table and shared this personal story and this personal side of your journey with me today.
Thank you for the insight. I appreciate that.
So thank you again for joining us for another conversation on Pink Perspectives, powered by the Pink Table Talk. Once again, I'm your host, Dana Johnson, and joining me for this part of the conversation is Candy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Please take a moment to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also subscribe and hit that notification button on our YouTube channel. Just go right into that search comments and type in Pink Perspectives, and you'll find us right there. Thank you for joining us. The Pink Table Talk will be offering our fabulously scented, custom-labeled Pink Table Talk candle. Each one hand-poured by Cheyenne Candles as a symbol of continuous support to the causes and awareness of breast cancer. The candle light, we'd like to say, represents an eternal flame that will burn in memory to the lives lost and in commemoration to those who continue the fight with cancer and our never-ending crusade to bring awareness. Proceeds from purchasing go to the building of the Pink Table Talk advocacy and outreach, as well as our ability to support other programs and agencies in kind. Thank you for joining us.